thank you all for coming. So just a little background. Disability Awareness Week is an annual event, and this year is marking 35 years of celebrations. That's a long time, 35 years. You think, Noah? 35 years of celebrating. And it's been put on through the Premier's Council. And the goal of Disability Awareness Week is to raise our awareness of the challenges and barriers that prevent citizens with disabilities from being more than just present in their communities. We want to see all people experience true inclusion, which means so much more than just merely being present. It means being active, it means being visible, it means participating, it means being valued and welcome, it means being embraced, it means having choices, it means exercising our rights and freedoms, and it means being missed when we're not present. Sometimes there's only illusion that people are included. So Disability Awareness Week provides us with an opportunity to reflect on how we're doing and how we need to go forward, how we collectively can overcome barriers and change perceptions and attitudes, how we can build an accessibility, opportunity, and inclusion into everything that we do. I hope today you'll get a glimpse into some of the great things that are going on right here in our own community, because it's also a time to celebrate our successes and advancements towards full inclusion for all our citizens with disabilities. And this year's theme is Adapt, Improvise, Overcome. So we're going to hear from a few honorable guest speakers, and Noah actually works for CHCO-TV. And so he is here actually doing his job today. So thank you, Noah and CHCO-TV, for being here. I may have some hair from the fuzzy thing. You're doing a great job, Noah, and he does a great job. He often airs some shows and showing people how to say certain phrases in sign language, and he's been a very welcome guest on CHCO. So we're now going to hear from some of our guests. And first we'll hear from our MLA, the lovely Andrea Anderson Mason, MLA, Fundy, the Isles, St. John West.
I don't know about you, but I'm pretty excited that the kickoff is right here in Eastern Charlotte. I think we should need a round of applause. Great things come from Eastern Charlotte. And this is going to be a great week, so I'm so proud that this is where the kickoff's going to be. There are so many people I'd like to thank, and I'm not going to name them all by names because guaranteed I'm going to miss somebody, but I do, I'm especially grateful that we have our mayors here, both our Johns that are here. They're such supportive people of our community, and I know they're so supportive in all events that are held. I just want to start out by going back to this week's theme, Adapt, Improvise, and Overcome. I don't know about you, it's Sunday, right? So I'm going to preach a little bit, I hope you don't mind. I don't know about you, but if you've ever been to church and you've sat through a service, and at the end of the service you look around and you say, oh, it was a good thing Tony Munn was here today because that was for him, right? But then, God whispers in your ear and says, no, sweetheart, honey, that was for you. Yeah, I have had that happen, and that's what happened to me today. Because when I was looking and reflecting on what the theme was, adapt, improvise, and overcome, at first I was thinking about the individuals in our lives that have to adapt, improvise, and overcome. And what I realized is, that's really more of a message for me. Because if we truly want to eliminate the illusion of inclusion, we have to take a good hard look at ourselves and ask, what are we doing to adapt, to improvise, and to overcome, to make sure that all peoples with disabilities, which really I want to call it abilities, what they can do, how we can include them in our lives, in our businesses, and make sure that we're just not operating in an illusion of inclusion. And we're so blessed here in this community to have Community Living, who does such a fabulous job, and they are the example to all of us. Thank you, Laura Lee, for everything that you do. Most of all, I want to thank all of the clients that we have here today. because I don't know if you know this, but you do something a little extra special for me. There is something that I have noticed, especially during COVID. Am I the only one? But I've noticed that social media in particular has taken a real negative turn in the last little while. And, you know, as I would go out in the community, there was a real kind of heaviness as we pushed through COVID. But there was one place where I never saw heaviness and I never saw negativity, and that was when I walked through the doors of community living. And you know what? There is no reason for us to have that negativity and that heaviness, especially when we look around and see what we can do and what the people around us can do. So I want to thank you, because when I get a little bit down, I said this to you this morning, didn't I, Melvin? When I get a little bit down, there's nothing like a hug from Melvin that lifts me up. So thank you all so much for what you do. You keep us going, and I appreciate it.
So next, we will hear from our mayor, our own mayor, St. George, John Dedorakis.
Thank you very much, Loralee. It's an honor that you invited me to come here today, and it's a greater honor that St. George was picked up for the kickoff of the Disability Awareness Week. I promise to be short, because all of the good things have been already said. I just want to highlight that this week was set out to promote awareness about the barriers that prevent people with disabilities to gain full and equal participation in our community. This week is an opportunity to think what we can do better to make sure that community members affected by disability are not marginalized. As mayor of this town, I'm proud that our municipality helps people with disabilities reach out their full potential and contribute in our community. The town of St. George works closely with the local chapter of the Association for Community Living to provide employment where people with intellectual or developmental disabilities can contribute with their abilities. And that is the key part. People with disabilities have abilities, and we should all make sure that we cut down the barriers that prevent them from actually exercising them. So I'd like to take the opportunity to thank Community Living and of course Loralee, and I was hoping to thank also Tony Mann, but he's not able to come in today, for doing all this great work assisting individuals that are challenged by disability. So I'll close this by just saying that let's all recognize this Disability Awareness Week and continue the work to take down the barriers that marginalize our fellow citizens who may have a disability. Thank you all. Thank you very much for coming.
Loralee, thank you for having me here today. I appreciate it. It is an honor, and most certainly an honor for the Community Living Center to be chosen for this year's kickoff event for the Provincial Disabilities Awareness Week, which is the 35th year. This past month, the Village Council, who are Councillor Ritchie, Councillor Libby, Councillor Thompson, Councillor Jerry Wells, and Deputy Mayor Adam Hatt, declared May 29th to June 4th Disabilities Awareness Week in the Village of Blacks Harbour. The saying that it takes a village to raise a child is true, but it takes a village to help all those in need and treating everyone with respect and acceptance. We can do better, and today is one step in that direction. The main goal of Disability Awareness Week is to raise public awareness of existing barriers that prevent citizens with disabilities from full and equal participation in all aspects of their community. In Blacks Harbour, the sound keeps going. In Blacks Harbour, we have a home that many people with disabilities live and are able to leave and travel around the community. They are all part of our community. And one of those was David Boudreau, who recently passed away. And anybody who knew David knew that there was nothing that slowed him down. He was a huge advocate for the disabled, and he was disabled himself. David was always seen going down the road to the ferry terminal on his motorized wheelchair, stopping at the local post office and grocery store for a chat. Another person who had disabilities and called Blacks Harbor home her entire life was Karen Campbell. There is nothing that Karen Campbell couldn't do. Nothing slowed her down. She lived her life to the fullest. She too had a motorized wheelchair, and she traveled all around the village, either going to work or going to the post office or store. So today, in memory of Karen and David, who both were incredibly strong individuals and an inspiration to all of us, I would like to say, as Mayor of Blacks Harbor, I am dedicating this kickoff to the Provincial Disabilities Awareness Week to David Boudreau and Karen Campbell, who both just passed away these last few months. There wasn't anything they couldn't do, and was an inspiration to anyone and everyone that met them. We were fortunate to have these people call Blacks Harbor home. So to Karen and David, we miss you. We will never forget you and your strength. We miss you dearly. This year's campaign is adapt, improvise, and overcome. And that is exactly what Karen and David did until the day they left us. Thank you very much for having me here today. And I think the hot dogs are almost ready, so they are.
Next on our agenda is Randy Dickinson. Randy is the chairperson for the Premier's Council.
Well, thank you very much, Laura Lee, and all of the people here today. First of all, I want to take the opportunity to publicly thank Laura Lee and the local Association for Community Living, not only for putting on this wonderful event today, but what they do day by day to provide employment opportunities for people with intellectual disabilities, day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year. She's been in for the long haul, and so have I, and we couldn't do what we do if we didn't have people at the local level willing to put their shoulders to the wheel and open those doors and break down those barriers and make it really possible in concrete ways to include persons with different disabilities. Some of you may not realize that when National Access Awareness Week first began 35 years ago, it started as a result of Rick Hansen, who did a wheelchair marathon around the world in a wheelchair. It took him 2 years to cover the hundreds of thousands of kilometers and come back to Vancouver to end it 35 years ago. And the federal government agreed to create a week to draw attention to the issues around barriers that remain for people with disabilities, but also to celebrate the positive things that have happened to move the bar higher. And this organization here in St. George is one of the examples of that. I'm also very pleased to let you know today that at the Canadian Congress on Disability Inclusion that took place online Thursday and Friday this week, the federal minister announced that they will introduce the legislation before they break for the summer recess to bring in a new federal financial benefit for low-income people with disabilities, similar to the guaranteed income supplement for people with disabilities. And we're working hard to make sure that when that happens, that the province won't claw back any of that federal benefit from any clients who are on social assistance. So hopefully our MLA who's here today can take that message back to the local, to the federal or to the provincial cabinet table when they begin to deal with the announcement. Plus, the federal minister announced that this coming week, as part of Disability Awareness Week, the federal government will announce the new National Disability Inclusion Plan, which will outline a number of new initiatives for inclusion of people with disabilities across the country, especially provisions under the new Federal Accessibility Act that was passed already. I'm also pleased to let you know that New Brunswick is in the process of working on provincial accessibility legislation. They've already formed a legislative committee. They've started the engagement process. They'll be doing some more public engagement this fall, but the Premier has assured us they'll be introducing the legislation in the legislature in the coming year so that we will have provincial accessibility legislation, not only about building codes and physical infrastructure, but about employment, transportation, income security, disability supports, and all all of the other measures that are necessary to make sure that people with disabilities are included fully in the economic, social, and cultural activities of our province. And I'm so happy to see these concrete initiatives come forward, along with the Provincial Disability Action Plan that the Premier's Council brought in last year that has 43 recommendations for provincial government activities. And I'm happy to report that almost all of those recommendations have had activities undertaken already by the provincial government departments that were named in each of the recommendations. So after 40-some years as a disability advocate, we're finally seeing a whole lot of things happen in real concrete ways that mean the future for inclusion for people with disabilities will be more than just words, will be more than just slogans, but will be concrete fiscal, financial, legislative, and budget initiatives to make it possible for real people living with real disabilities to be fully included in their community. And ladies and gentlemen, that's what all of us have been working for so many years. That's what Disability Awareness Week is celebrating, and I'm very happy to be able to share that recent information with you here today. And once again, thank all of the people who showed up today. St. George, I've been here in past years, but I really didn't expect such a big crowd and a full parking lot on a Sunday afternoon in St. George. But you guys once again show that when there's something to do, you get it done, and I'm really happy to be here today. And we're also taking this opportunity. I'm wondering, first of all, is the representative here from Ability New Brunswick? Yes. Yes? Well, can you step forward, please? Is this Will Turonsky?
Will Trust, yeah.
Yep. Ladies and gentlemen, as part of Disability Awareness Week, we present a certain number of provincial awards that are nominated from the community and organizations and individuals from across the province. And today we're going to be able to physically present two of those awards to the worthy recipients. The first award under the provincial award category is presented to Ability New Brunswick. Wilf Turonsky is one of the board members of the organization. This organization recently celebrated their 65th anniversary of operations in New Brunswick. They really got their start after the First World War, when so many injured veterans were coming back with disabilities. They created an organization, which was the Canadian Paraplegic Association, to help provide rehab and support services. And over the years, that organization in New Brunswick morphed into the Ability New Brunswick organization. They provide rehab counseling to individuals all across the province. They provide organization and support for the Parasport program, which replaced wheelchair sports, and they're in the middle of a big tour to do demonstration projects across the province. I personally have worked with the organization on many projects, and they may not want to admit it, but back in the early 90s, I was their executive director for a couple of years in between appointments at the Premier's Council. And I know as well they are very active leaders within the New Brunswick Disabilities Executive Network, working all the time on policies and programs to improve opportunities for people living with disabilities. So Wilf, on behalf of Ability New Brunswick and from the Premier's Council on Disabilities and the Disability Awareness Week, we want to present you with the Disability Awareness Week New Brunswick Award for 2022. Thank you very much. I'd like to say it.
Let me turn around a bit here. I'm kind of clumsy with this thing because I've been in hospital for about the last year and a half, and this is the first time I've been out of bed since that time. I've got a new rig in my vehicle. I have a new adaptive rig in my vehicle sponsored by the adaptive program that Randy's been involved with. And I've been very, very fortunate to have that piece of equipment in my car, which will allow me to get into the car and get out of the car with the help of a driver. And, you know, Randy was talking about support. Ed, for instance, has volunteered to drive me here today. My wife couldn't because her mom celebrated her 100th birthday this week. But I can tell you, the saying from the mayor was, it takes a village to bring up a child, that's exactly what we feel like. I've had a coccyx wound. I just see Karen there. She was my first occupational therapist at Stan Cassidy. Thank God New Brunswick has Stan Cassidy. That's all I can say. It has been a blessing. It's a lovely, loving organization. If anybody doesn't know about it, please look them up. Randy mentioned a lot of things that the council does. And working for government, I was with the provincial government for a couple of years. I know how they work. There's only a certain amount you can do, but you need doers on the floor. And this is what Ability New Brunswick tries to do, together with other organizations with the help of the province. This is where I think we're strong, and we want to continue to be strong. And I think nothing does me and my fellow board members and our executive director more pleasure than receiving this award, and thank you.
Thank you very much, folks. Please pass on our best wishes to the staff and the other board members at Ability New Brunswick for all the good work they do all the time on behalf of so many people. And now it's also my great pleasure to present a second provincial award. One of the awards is named in honor of the Honorable Andy Scott, who was a former federal cabinet minister from New Brunswick. Unfortunately, Andy passed away a few years back, but Andy was a champion for disability issues. He was a volunteer with many New Brunswick organizations, including the Association for Community Living, supported the Premier's Council on Disabilities, Ability New Brunswick, and many other groups around the province. But one of the things he did when he was a member of Parliament was chaired a federal task force on disability issues that had hearings across Canada, the country, to talk about disability issues and what should be done. And what he did in his report called Full Citizenship for All was change the debate from a debate about charity and looking at people with disabilities as charity cases and talk about human rights and inclusion and change the debate to citizenship rights, which began the process that has led to some of the dramatic changes like the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, the provincial New Brunswick Human Rights Commission and the provisions they have for protection of rights for persons with disabilities, and the Disability Action Plan that I talked about earlier, and the Federal Inclusion Plan, and provincial and federal accessibility legislation. All of this stemmed from the example and the hard work that Andy Scott did on our behalf and in support and working with us to make these things happen. So today I'd like to call Clarence Bastarash from Bathurst to come forward. I'm very happy to see that I'm not the only senior citizen here today. I've known Clarence for many years. Clarence is from Bathurst, by the way, and Clarence has had an outstanding record in the field of sport, but also many other initiatives to support community activities for people with disabilities. For those of you who may not be aware, Clarence was one of the original wheelchair sports athletes from New Brunswick that competed at international, national, and the Paralympics and Stoke Mandeville Games. He had so many medals, I think if he brought his medals, he'd need a second band just to bring those along. I think the last time I counted them up, it was over 90 medals that he'd won. And he set records in half a dozen different sports for Canadian records. Little old boy from New Brunswick setting records nationally as well as getting medals internationally back in the days. He went on from there to be a successful player in the Wheelchair Basketball League, a coach, a mentor to many athletes with disabilities who learned from the best on how to participate in sports and also taught them a lot about living life to the fullest. Clarence also was an active community advocate. He was involved in local transportation services for people with disabilities in the Bathurst area. He's also been an active spokesperson on accessibility issues, and he's been known to be out and about anytime there's something going on about disability. Back in the days when we had an advisory committee on disability in Bathurst, he was active in that too. I'm very pleased to let you know that the province of New Brunswick also recognized Clarence and inducted him to the New Brunswick Sports Hall of Fame for his athletic achievement. But we are also taking the occasion to award him this year's Andy Scott Award for Clarence's outstanding many years, not only of athletic achievement as a disabled athlete, but the role model he provided to so many others and the community activism he's shown to promote inclusion and accessibility for people with disabilities. If we had a few more people like Clarence spread around the province, our province would be even further ahead than it's already at. And I want to thank you, Clarence. I know you didn't do what you do for recognition, but once in a while it's nice to say publicly thank you and recognize the people who've been there for so many years doing what needed to be done. So thank you, Clarence. Congratulations.
Yes, it's quite an honor for me to receive the Andy Scott Award. History has shown that Andy was an avid advocate towards the betterment of the disabled population and should be commended for his dedication to the cause. Having been volunteer manager for the Bathurst Community Venture Van for 40 years, showed the need of transportation for the disabled and is still needed more than ever. A lot has been done to make our communities barrier-free and accessible to transportation. Finally, I want to thank Randy for submitting my nomination for this prestigious award. Thank you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I will just close again by thanking you all for coming today, to thank St. George and the community for hosting us and leading their committee. And remember the slogan, adapt, improvise, and overcome. Together we're better, together we get things done, and the future is bright today for people with disabilities in the future because of all of you and all of the other people in the province that are going to continue to work together to lower the barriers, to break down the system that has prevented people from being included. And inclusion, as the member of the legislature said, will not just be language and a slogan, but will be action and concrete progress. Thank you all.
Thank you so much for that, Randy. As an advocate that's been in this position for such a long time, I think that everyone in the province has benefited from all of the accomplishments that Randy and his team have done over the years. And to the participants who won awards today, congratulations and thank you, Randy. Keep up the good work. We'll do this again in 20 years. Thank you. So next on our agenda is Bev Grass, and Bev is with the Neil Squire Foundation. And if you know a little bit about the Neil Squire Foundation, I'm sure Bev will fill you in, but they're also an advocacy nonprofit group that provides services to people mostly through technologies and computers, and I'm going to let her explain. I just met a lot of new people this last month as we put this plan into action. Christine and Bev and Rebecca Cant and a lot of people, so it's really nice to see them all today. So we're going to let Bev come up and talk about the Neil Squire Foundation.
I just want to say one other thing. I was remiss in my earlier remarks. When we talk about the Premier's Council on Disabilities being the provincial organizer for Disability Awareness Week, I want to point out that Neil Squire is also a co-partner and has been involved with us for a number of years in helping to organize and carry out the week. And we really take advantage of their technical expertise, especially we're doing virtual presentations with hundreds and hundreds of school children in the coming week to help expose them to disability awareness messages, thanks to the involvement of Neil Squire. So I want to thank Bev and her team for all they do, not only with their work as Neil Squire, but especially the help they've given us in making Disability Awareness Week a success. Thank you.
Hello. Oh, okay. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Bev Grass, and I'm the Regional Manager of Employment Services with the Neil Squire. My co-manager, Charles Levasseur, looks after the technology, assistive technology part. He's unable to be here today, but I do have Rebecca Cant over in the corner there from our Sackville area. We're glad to be here today. What a great turnout. We have been partnering with the Premier's Council on Disability for a number of years for Disability Awareness Week. And how does that work? Well, of course, the Premier's Council is a provincial level. Neil Squire has been very fortunate through Minister Caltro's federal department to get funding. So we get the funding to help run some of the events throughout the province, a lot of the events throughout the province for this week. So, so it's really, we're all here today through the federal and provincial government levels. So I wanted to point that out. How was St. George picked? Well, they weren't just picked out of the hat and said, let's go with St. George. It was picked because of the residents that are here today. These folks have been very, very active in our Disability Awareness Week over the last few years and sent us many messages. And when we were trying to decide where to have our kickoff this year, I was meeting with Rebecca one day and we were kind of throwing around some different ideas, and she said, what about St. George Community Center? They're so active. And so I said, you know what, I think that's a great idea. We reached out to Christine and her team at the Premier's Council. They said, yeah, that's a great idea. So we contacted Laura Lee. Not only did they jump on board, but the whole community did. So, you know, thank you for everybody that's here today. Thank you for our interpreter that's here today. And just glad to do the kickoff here. And there are a number of different events coming up this week. So if you're not sure, ask any one of us, virtual events, school events, different things. So have a great day. And thanks, Laura Lee and your team, for such a great event and the sunshine.
Thank you, Bev. Thank you, Bev. And it's been great to meet you all. And we also work closely with the Neil Squire. A lot of our participants are active with some of the programs and things that they offer. And a lot of it has really increased their skills and their technology level. Like one of the things that during the pandemic that we did was got people really involved with technology, especially how to use Zoom, because we never knew if we were going to be home or at the center. So we got everybody onto Zoom so that we could do a lot of activities, meetings, training, all kinds of things. So we're really proud of everybody for being able to master that technology. I think we're all Zoom experts now. So,
award recipients, thank you very much for having me here today. I'm Peter Justin. I'm the Secretary Treasurer of the Food Bank. I also bring greetings from our president, Tony Munn. Okay, the significance of that will be in about a second, right? So the Food Bank has partnered with Community Living to operate this thrift store that we're all being surrounded by today. The thrift store is a great example of the theme of this week from Disability Week. It's a great example. We've adapted, we've overcome, we've improvised, you know, and sometimes on the same day. A lot of the clients here today have volunteered and worked, actually got paid for working here at the thrift store, and we're very proud to be part of that as part of the Food Bank. Food Bank started by having all of the donations. People would give us clothing, furniture, all kinds of things, refrigerators, stoves, and we had basically no efficient way of getting them out to the public. Community Living had lots of clients that were willing to work and just needed a place to work. So our presidents, who's the same guy, basically got us together, and we were able to open the social enterprise, which has been a big success, starting in the village of Blacks Harbor, expanding to here in St. George. It's been a great success. It wouldn't be a success without the community. So thank you all for coming here today to recognize Disability Week, and thank you for supporting the thrift store and the St. George and Area Food Bank. Thank you.
thank you so much, Peter. The social enterprises are a bit different from normal business because we go into those with the intention of trying to meet some type of community need. And so definitely a thrift store meets all kinds of needs. Food banks, of course, meet needs because our food bank isn't just about giving out food. There are all kinds of other services and resources involved that really work to help people to do more for themselves. And when you run a thrift shop in a small area, It allows people to get the things they need, valued items, at a fraction of the price, so they can use money to buy more important things, like maybe gas. But we do find that this store has been a big success, and the partnership has been wonderful. There's probably about 12 or 13 of our participants that are working in the store part-time, and most of them can work independently now. Noah works in there. Almost everyone that you see here works in that store and independently. And Lori, I'm not sure if Lori's in the store, can hear me. Lori is our store manager, and she's a wonderful support to individuals. Like, we all just work really well together. And we thank everyone, like Peter said, for for supporting that store. Like, donations are all it runs, so we don't buy anything. It's just strictly donations from this community. So thank you. So we're almost to the end. We did have a young lady who was, oh, there's Lori. Lori, did you want to come and say a few words? I don't want to put you on the spot. Lori's our amazing store manager. And her staff.
I just want to say thank you. These are all my guys and gals here, and you can just imagine the work they do in the store with us every day. We just couldn't get along without them. So thank you, guys. I love yous all.
Good job, Noah. Thank you so much, Lori, and your staff. We all have a lot of fun in our workplaces. So we also had a staff and one of our participants who wrote a special poem for today. And I'm not sure if Madsen's here, but I think Christy might like to come and read that poem.
The poem is theme, adapt, improvise, and overcome. Each person has the right to liberty. Each person has the right to be happy. Each person has the right to live fully. We are in this together. A friendly smile is all we need to belong, to have friends, to be participants, to have responsibilities, to have opportunities, to be included. Each of these changes a challenge, something to overcome and adapt to. Do not turn your back. Do not fail us. Support us to overcome and improvise. Most of all, to learn and adapt.
For putting together that poem. So we're almost at the end. I do have a very special person. He's the last person to speak. But as Andrea told me at the beginning, it doesn't matter. The last person is not the least person by any means. So that's proof of that. So Andy Blanchard is a participant with the Community Living Center. He's been with us for a long time. Andy is a self-advocate. And one of the organizations that we support in this area is a group called People First. And People First is a provincial and national organization, and a lot of them have seemingly kind of died out a little bit in the last few years. They've lost some funding, and it's difficult to keep those things going without some support. But we've kept ours going through thick and thin. And Andy's going to come up and just talk about some of the things that People First has accomplished and some of the things that he's also accomplished in his life. Thank you, Andy. I still need it.
Good afternoon. My name is A.M.G. Blanchard, and I was People First. And I need help.
That's okay. People First, a group of other self-advocates.
Self-advocate. And we put things together.
Yeah, Yeah, we help to raise awareness about inclusion.
And the biggest thing we did is at the Canal Beach, we got wheelchair pads, moby pads, and picnic tables. And the town of St. George is doing more for people. They do a lot better. And my goal was when my wife and I, we got married 13 years ago, and we got our own home from the Habitat, and we've been there for 6 years. And thank you for coming.
I just want to add to something that you said, because you mentioned, I'm going to explain a little joke. She asked me where the province falls in the speaking order, and I very tongue-in-cheek said, we don't always save the best to last. But you know what I think we actually did do today is we did save the best to last. Thank you so much, Andy. I want to tell you all a little bit about Andy. Andy's got my number on speed dial, my cell phone, and he is the greatest advocate. And he has organized meetings between him and I, and he is so awesome. At the beginning of the meeting, he always starts out with the most grateful heart. We start out in prayer with our beginning of the meeting, and it's the best meeting that I ever get to participate in, are ones with Andy. He knows what he wants. He knows how to speak up. He knows to fight for what needs to be fought for. And not only, Andy, I don't know if you know this, but did you make such a significant change with the Canal Beach project? Not only did you get the Moby pad there, but this year, with the improvements that are happening at Canal Beach, we'll now have accessible washrooms as well. And that was completely inspired by all of you. So thank you so much.
Thank you. It's beaches in New Brunswick that now have Moby pads. And the great part of it was that we worked with the town of St. George really closely. And when we called them up to see what their next plans were, they had money to do more upgrades there for the beach. And they had already built accessibility in. And that's really important, is that, you know, with anything we do or anything we build or plan, that we build accessibility in at the beginning. That's really important. Okay, so we're just moving. That's the end of our speakers. I just want to just say a couple of words, because I would really love if you guys would come and get more hot dogs and drinks, please. But I just want to close by saying that in my own experience and with the local Association for Community Living and the Community Living Center, we have promoted inclusion in the community for the past 40 years. And we've witnessed so much progress, but we still realize that there's so much more to do. There's lots more to do. Conclusion's an attitude, it's a way of life. And with this community, especially, all things are possible, so we know we'll get there. And we've worked together in the community. Most everything's been mentioned, but we provide employment supports. We know that partnerships are really important, and we work closely with Michelle DeVue and Working Stronger Together, who also provides employment services to everyone in the community, including people with disabilities. So we work with them. We're hoping to work closer with them now as we provide more jobs for people. The Canal Beach Moby Pad. We also just secured a $32,000 grant to make this store more accessible, to put electric doors in and accessible bathrooms. So it's really important to look around the community and see if you could get into a building if you had a wheelchair or had some mobile barrier. Like, it's really important to look around, and maybe as a community we can work together and get grants and fix all of those places. That'd be great. And our two social enterprises, the Food Bank and Repeat Boutique, we've kind of put those out as entities and charities of their own, but they fulfill needs for everybody in the community. We know that partnerships are the best. Like-minded groups who come together and pool the resources, when that happens, great things can happen. Like, for example, there's a community hub, which you can see Michelle about, and maybe get on board with that. They're doing some amazing things for youth in this community and around mental health, and they're just getting ready to open an internet cafe for our area. So all kinds of really good things happening. And so we just need to look at areas like, youth, housing, transportation. I just want to mention Dial-A-Ride too, because we were instrumental in starting that many years ago, and that's going great. Very big success. Helps people with disabilities to have transportation. We work very closely with NBACL as a local partner. So in closing, I just want to say a big thank you to everyone who made today possible, all our honorable guests, Vicki Hogarth and her crew, and Noah, who always do a fantastic job of covering local events. And to our interpreter, Jennifer, language translator, the amazing Josh Osborne, Jamie Thorne, who didn't stay but carried all this stuff over here for us, Lori Hall-Ring, the manager of the store, and her staff, all of our board members, my staff and clients, and just everyone who came out today and anyone I may have forgot. Thank you all. And let's all go forth and be bold in our determination to work for positive change, because inclusion's who we are and it's what we want. So we won't stop at anything. We want everyone to be included. So thank you so much for coming out today. It's so much appreciated.